Hi everyone, my name is Vicky, and I want to tell you a story about my classmates. How nasty they were, how they scared everyone, and how I managed to get rid of them. My father and I moved to a new place, and I went to a new school. Honoring the first day, the store clerk, upon hearing where I was going to school, said she wasn't jealous of me, and that she was betting that I would get the first flight out of there. Why do you say that? Well, because the good kids don't get along there. The children of criminals live there, and the children themselves are not far from their parents. They don't know me. And you don't know them. There are not many of them, about 10 people, but they keep the whole school, and for some reason, even the principal does not expel them or punish them. There must be some reason, but no one knows the reason. I have a great nose for this kind of thing. I heard that the principal even patronizes them, but when questioned by the police, they cannot find any evidence. Unofficially, everyone knows that gangs of criminals have been doing things in the city for a long time. What kind of things? They say they burglarize houses, but I've never seen it myself. No one I know has been robbed. They say they only rob the rich, so most people keep quiet. So they become accomplices? What? How so? If you don't report the crime, you're just as guilty as they are. That's not true. I pay my taxes. I haven't violated anything. Concealment is also a crime. You've got some nerve. No, I'm just a policeman's daughter, and I'll show you what it means to obey the law. I came out of the store satisfied. I even wondered what kind of nasty classmates I'd have at school. I bought coffee and went to class. I entered the classroom with straight posture. At first, there was silence, and then someone shouted at me, "Didn't you learn to say hello?" It was Stan. He's kind of the leader amongst his own people. Who said that? Me. I'm sorry, I thought it was her. You guys just look so much alike. All in black, wearing makeup. You can't tell the difference. You're pushing it, new girl. Easy, Abby. Show some respect. She won't be here long. What makes you think that? You won't last a week. You don't know me. And you don't know me. Then the teacher came in and we took our seats. Throughout the lesson, scraps of paper flew to the back of my head, and during recess, Abby shoved me so that my bag fell and my textbooks fell to the floor. A girl who looked like a gray mouse flew up to me and told me to be less impudent or it would get worse for me. What the hell is this? Why are you afraid of them all? They're just children, like us. You don't know them. Once I came to school in a new SUV and the kids, when they saw my car, started asking where I got it from. I told them like it was that my stepfather had given it to me, and then they found out that he was the brother of one of the officials in the Department of Energy. Well, just because I'm their classmate, they didn't touch me, but I had to change the car to something more modest. Do they have a poverty complex? Why are they bothering all the rich people? I don't know, but no one can catch them. I think they're doing someone's bidding. That's even more interesting. I decided to look into it, to find out what was going on. But to do that, I had to understand their logic. After collecting a little information, I realized that this gang was Robin Hood. That is, they take money from the wealthy, but spend it where? I did not understand. Then I began to observe them. Within a week, I was discreetly tracking them down, and I noticed that they robbed 2 rich houses on the outskirts of town. I filmed the whole thing, and then I tracked them further. They came to a house. Out of there came... Oh no, it was the principal of our school. They handed her the loot and left. She took it and went back inside. I was so shocked. I went home and sat down to talk to my dad. So that's why she patronizes them, because they work under her. Did you get everything on camera? Yes. Keep the tape, make a copy, but don't go in there again. Let me handle the case. My colleagues in the department don't want to do it either, so I guess it's not that simple. I can't stay out of it. I've already started. That's it. Please don't. Dad then went off to the station for the night. The next morning, the principal looked happier and even greeted the boys more obligingly. Yeah, I thought. That's the scheme. She's covering for them, and they're serving her, and that's the way it is. I wanted to expose them all, but since I couldn't do it openly, I decided to infiltrate them. It wasn't easy to do, considering they didn't like me at first, but there was one advantage. No one knew my father was a cop. And then the fun part started. I pretended when they left the school that I was arguing on the phone with someone, calling him a fucking bourgeois, and demanding my money back. Stan took the bait. He asked right away, like, is there a problem? I told him there's a guy that owes me money and won't pay me back, and then I asked him to help me out.
Why would I help you?
I'll pay you.
Let's talk.
We agreed on a place to meet. We saw each other in the evening. They came in a whole crowd. Stan and I walked in the back and the rest of them in front. One thing led to another, and I asked him how long he'd been doing this for money. To which he said they don't beat it out, they give it back. Who do you give the money back to?
To whom it rightfully belongs.
What do you mean?
You're too nosy.
Yeah, I guess so. He didn't answer. I took them to one of the houses and asked them to break down the door. When they broke into the house and started looking for the money, I called my father and he got in there with reinforcements. They arrested them all and I stood there, cheering. I managed to punish them legally, to do what no one else had done. They were silent. Not one even shrieked, and I was surprised. When Stan was being led out in handcuffs, he stopped, looked at me, and said that I had made a mistake. They were taken to the station. It was just a matter of getting to the principal. We went to see her, but she wasn't home. No money or her. I figured she'd skipped the country. While my dad was punching through her information, I found a picture in the house with a baby in it. Wow, she has a son? I asked myself. I wondered where he was. The teacher seemed to have disappeared without a trace. They were looking for her all over the subways and buses, punching cars. It took a few days to find her, during which time they'd already checked the whole school, but there was no money anywhere. Stan and the boys refused to testify, no matter how hard my father tried to crack them. Nothing was known about their relatives either, and then we found out that they were all orphans. After a while, our town went back to normal. Then something terrible began to happen. Drunk teenagers in expensive cars began to drive around the city. Some of their children often smashed up stores and drugstores, and the police had no time to react. I didn't understand why things had become like this. Then one day, I went to the store I had been in that first day. The same saleswoman was sitting on the floor, holding her head in her hands. I asked her what had happened. She told me that she'd been robbed. I'll call the police. Don't. There's nothing you can do about it. Why? They're not afraid of anyone. They'll get out with the money. Who are you talking about? The children of the local power brokers. They're not afraid of anyone, except for the kids who went to the same school as you. What? Stan and his gang? Yeah, they're the only ones they were afraid of. But why? They controlled them. Also, since they've been locked up, 6 kids have died at a children's hospital. What does that have to do with anything? They were robbing the homes of rich officials and sending money to treat children who didn't have enough money to survive. I immediately remembered the principal and the photo with the baby in it. I'm sorry, I have to run. I immediately called all the hospitals and found the baby's last name and rushed there. It turned out that our director was asleep in his room and her baby was on IV and oxygen. He was sleeping. I slowly entered the room and wanted to look through the documents, but a voice came from behind me. He has stage 2 cancer. I have no money for treatment. Stan and his gang were helping me and people like us, and now that they're behind bars, the kids are dying. But that's stealing. What difference does it make? If the children of the officials behave exactly the same way, what difference does it make if children die while the rich get richer and the poor get poorer? Why not solve everything legally? They write it themselves, as and when it suits them. And because of your honesty, innocent and moneyless people will die. I felt uncomfortable. In some ways, she was right. But what to do when the law is on one side and the lives of innocents are on the other? I talked to my dad, and he said that the police were happy with this arrangement, for the simple reason that there was less crime on the streets. Who are these orphans anyway?
As it turns out, a long time ago, they were all the children of the police officers who had founded the security system in this town, and then the officials came in and killed them all. All the children were sent to orphanages. They grew up and became shadows of their parents and decided to do justice in their own way because, well, the law doesn't work. You know, they're the law. You know, the mayor's office.
Yeah, I started this. I'll clean it up. My video went viral a long time ago with a principal in it. That's why she was hiding in the hospital. Then I made another video with those rich bastards, what they were doing on the streets. I filmed every day, walking around like a shadow, and soon the attention turned to them. My dad and I were hunted down, but by then, my dad had let Stan out, and they helped us, found us a safe place. I had to beg for forgiveness afterward. After a while, everything calmed down, so I decided to join them, only now we had extra help in the form of my dad. We started patrolling the city together, but they stopped stealing. We decided to impose permanent fines and penalties on the rich for violations. That's better, isn't it?
Hello, everyone. My name is Walker. I recently transferred from one school. It is not quite ordinary. You can even say not at all ordinary. And all because it's not for everyone, only for the chosen ones. Now I'll tell you more about how I got there and what I went through. But while you watch, listen, like the video, write comments under the video, and do not forget to subscribe to the channel. When I was 16, I went to a school for aspiring detectives. Yes, I combined my studies in parallel with the main one. I was interested in investigating crimes from childhood. Besides, I did quite well, so my parents also did not mind. Once, I even managed to solve a high-profile crime at school. The fact is that at one time, I heard that we were distributing drugs. This happens in many schools, but the drug that was distributed among us was not just pampering, it caused real hallucinations, after which students committed suicide. The games with death were too much advertised on the phone radio. The gossip and rumor about the drugs was embellished. The police came to us every day, led by the sheriff himself, but no one could find the dealer. Since no one but my parents knew that I attended detective school, I managed to infiltrate a group of high school students who were pushing dope right at parties. It was difficult, but I did it. I pretended to be one of their buyers and then took and took. They were wondering why I didn't take it as well as the others, and I said that I have immunity. Besides, I used the minimum dosage, and they seemed to believe me. I managed to earn the status of a regular customer. I told guys that my foster mother also drinks this stuff, and they easily believed it. And so, at one of the drug sales, they were hit by the cops. I was also taken away so that I would not stand out and arouse suspicion. Then, allegedly, I managed to get out of it, but they did not. They remained in prison, and the trials began. I pretended I'd never spoken to them, that's all. But the case was not brought to an end. We needed to find the source of the crime, and that is, the one who prepares all this and distributes it. The most interesting thing was that the dope was only sold in our school, which meant that there were few drugs and their production had only just begun. All I had to do was find this person. Then one day, I met another guy at school, pushing CPC-3, or so the drug was called. I bought it, and then I made an appointment to buy more, and they told me that CPC would be there tonight. I agreed and hid around the corner. I was planning on tracking down the couple who sold it to me. Immediately after school, they headed towards the outskirts of the city. It wasn't difficult to follow them, but as soon as I got even closer to the fence, the guards chased me away. Then I decided to go there under a different guise. I remembered that our director had connections there. I think a friend or a relative worked there. That's it. All I had to do was pretend to be bad. All children with a terrible psychological state were taken there. It was worth getting a certificate from a school psychologist. This place was called the second school, but once inside, it was more creepy than I'd imagined. My supposed uncontrolled outbursts of aggression were treated with sedatives. I pretended to drink them, and I secretly watched the locals. There I saw most of the guys from our school, including those who were drugged but survived. Something must have happened to their brains to be there. It wasn't easy for me there at first. The orderlies there were petty. It was not worth disobeying them once, because they immediately hit the kidneys with a baton, despite the fact that we were children and they did not feed us well there. At best, once a day, and sometimes completely forgot, but regularly gave pills, after which the violent became quiet and upside down. I never saw the director, but I planned to get to his office, and I did it last night. I somehow ran through the nurses. I managed to pick the lock and go inside. I was looking for a clue. Why were the dealers coming here? I accidentally bumped my folder on the table, and documents with photos of those dealers, or rather all the dealers, and the arrested ones, fell out. And then I saw other photos. These children were sitting in the ward. They were pumped with something. Then I realized that they were all being used here. Suddenly, the photo on the table caught my eye. Oh no, the director of the psych ward was our director's twin brother. Then there was a noise, and I abruptly hid under the table. Someone came in. Damn, I forgot to close the door again. So where is it? And here they are, said the voice, and picked up the documents from the floor. Then he called someone and said that the children were ready. It was time to let them out. As soon as he finished, he left the office. I hesitated for a moment, and then I was going to run out and run to the police, but as soon as I went out the door, I was immediately stopped, pressed against the wall, and threatened. What were you doing in my office? The director shouted. I was confused, scared, and then I said that I had taken Cepisi and I felt uneasy. You're on the pill. Go on, go back to your room. Your turn to sell is not yet here, he said to me and let me go. Then I realized that he was pumping the kids, luring them to him with his brother's help and making the kids free dealers. Well, the children who died were not his concern. I managed to run out of the school by a miracle. The first thing I did was run to my office, and I told my mentors everything. And with them, I went to the police, where we drew up a search warrant. The management of the two schools were caught red-handed, and the crime was solved. It turns out that they mixed psychotropic drugs and distributed them to school children, a vague business that failed miserably. Yes, I was proud of myself and the work I had done. This proved once again that I chose the right profession. After it was all over, I continued my studies as before, only now I felt a little calmer for myself and my friends. Then it turned out that our director and his brother were already involved in similar cases related to smuggling, only they managed to get free, and then they changed their names and surnames. Well, now they're going to jail for a long time, that's for sure. That school for psychos was closed. It shouldn't have been there. But they made an excellent dance school out of it, and now you can get there completely legally and at will. Do you think we did the right thing?